All right, welcome to another Monsterology. I am now in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh, looking for monster stories for you. I lived here 20 years ago and had the good fortune to teach a bunch of wonderful students back in at the Buddhist Institute. And now I'm back here, meeting up with some of them again, and also plumbing the depths of the folklore to see what kind of monstrous tales I can find. It is now about 1,000,000 degrees, and I am going to find some shade. All right, I am in downtown Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and what you're looking at here behind me is the very famous monsters of Buddhism, Cambodian Buddhism, but it comes from the Hindu tradition, originally from India. And this is the Naga monster, which is a giant dragon snake-like creature, probably based on the cobra. It is thought to be sort of part snake, part human being, and lives in the underworld, sometimes in rivers and in seas. And it is thought to be, in Buddhism, a kind of protector of the Buddha. So in some traditions, the Naga rises up and protects him from the elements when he's meditating. And generally, you can find it in the same sort of positions in temples and so forth that you would find like the foo dogs or the those sort of like lion dog creatures that you're more familiar with. This one is a very famous one. I'm just right down really just sort of one click from the Independence Monument, and it's kind of interesting. It's a beautiful sculpture. It's basically got 4 Nagas and then all wrapped and coiled around each other, holding up what looks to be, I'm not quite sure, probably a lotus type structure. Behind me is where the Independence Monument is, and you can't quite see it right past there, but this is where I used to live 20 years ago. Down the street here, it looks very different then. It was like empty fields. There was none of this development. There were no high rises here at all. It's completely different. I used to walk this route every day to teach at the Buddhist Institute. So this is really bringing up a lot of ghosts, which I suppose is appropriate for Monsterology. All right, so today we're going to be sort of drawing and talking about the Naga tradition. Here's the first image that I draw, and it's a digital drawing on the iPad. And here's the second one. The first is obviously a sort of classic Naga, and the second is the cobra that the Naga is based on. So you'll see me basically doing the drawing here. I'm going to talk a little bit more today, I think, about the drawing techniques. But first, a little more on the Naga. Who are the Naga? And it's always been fascinating to me that many cultures, whether it's in Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, even in the American Southwest, there's a kind of connection between serpents or snakes and creation mythology. And it's hard to know exactly what that's about. I mean, maybe a sort of evolutionary psychologist might say, well, snakes are dangerous, and therefore it makes sense to have a kind of cultural meme complex around them to keep us, safe. It could be adaptive to have certain fears about snakes, but I think there's something else going on too. There's something about the movement of the snake, its strange undulating motion. It seems to kind of almost symbolize energy. There's just something weird about snake movement and behavior that seems, they look dead in the eyes, sort of like fish do, but then their motion seems to almost symbolize the kind of eternal creativity that you find in Eastern thought, the kind of cycle of destruction and creation that you find in Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma. The Naga is basically, kind of considered a guardian in Buddhist thought, but in Hinduism there's sort of three main Nagas, and this had a huge influence as the Brahmanistic tradition moved into Southeast Asia. Sheshanaga or Ananta is like the most powerful Naga, and this is Vishnu sort of reclines on Sheshanaga in a kind of cosmic ocean, and this is sort of a part of the creation story. And then Vasuki is a sort of churning rope. You're going to see a version of this that I found in the Bangkok airport coming up here soon. But here the idea is the snake is used to actually move through the ocean. And this churning, again, this sort of strange undulating motion is what creates almost like a spontaneous generation of forms. And then Takshaka is the tribal chief of serpents. And you'll oftentimes see the Nagas celebrated in India during kind of festival in July and in August. And I think, again, in Buddhism, we think the Naga is really more of a protector creature. There's a legend of a Naga king, Mukalinda, who sheltered the Buddha. So during the rainy season in Southeast Asia, it gets pretty intense. And so the Naga basically rises up and then folds like an umbrella over the Buddha's head, and does this for many days while the Buddha pursues enlightenment. And so in Khmer culture, in Thai and Khmer culture, you'll frequently see the Buddha with the Naga sort of as a protector over the top. And so here I'm doing a drawing that you can see on the iPad. I'm using iPad Pro with a Apple Pencil, and I'm using the program Procreate, which you've seen me use many times on this channel. I want you to just sort of understand a little bit about my approach to the digital drawing. There's lots of ways that people do digital work, which is quite fancy and computer literate, and I have none of that skill. You can see that I am essentially drawing just like I would with a pen. Here I am in the airport on a piece of paper. I'm just basically doing what you would do with a pencil or a pen, because that's what I trained to do, and that's what I'm, competent at. I'd like to stretch and use some of the techniques that are available through the digital media, but I really like to feel, that I'm drawing in the traditional way. So what I do here is I try to find the form. Like the color that I'm using here is just kind of a gray at first, and then when I find the form, and it takes, I want to get something that has a kind of motion to it and get the form accurate, then I basically create a new layer and go in with a much darker, almost like I'm using pen and ink, like India ink, and I'll use that kind of digital brush or ink calligraphy pen, like a crow quill pen, and you'll see me then going in and making a much more refined and sort of finished artwork here. But again, it's exactly what I would do if I was working on paper. I would probably come in first with a pencil, something that's soft, not too soft, maybe like a 2B or 3B pencil, just to get the form accurate. And that's when I can do my erasing and I'm finding the form. And then afterwards, I might even blot out some of that and erase some of that so that I can come in with pen and ink, or I start painting with watercolor or oils or whatever. And then you start creating a much more refined version. And so that's what you're seeing me do here. Even though it's in digital format, you'll see that I'm using traditional drawing techniques and sort of a traditional drawing philosophy to approach it. I have respect for people who do other kinds of digital artwork. I can't do it. And really this is what I'm interested in still exploring and investigating myself, is this kind of work. So now you're going to see me end up here I'm in Bangkok when I was doing some of this work, and I end up in the airport and find a great Naga sculpture here that I want to share with you, called the Churning the Sea of Milk. Okay, you see this thing behind me? I'm in the Bangkok airport, and you see these guys are holding a giant cobra snake, and this is the great Naga. And this is, if you look, we'll walk along here. This is a very famous image that you'll see in Thailand and Cambodia. You look up here from behind here, that is Vishnu. And along the giant Naga is a battle. They're pulling the Naga back and forth, and it is churning the sea of milk. And here, if you look up, is the giant Naga. Several heads on this thing. So they're pulling on one. It's like basically a tug of rope through the ocean, which churns the sea of milk, which then sparks up the apsaras, or the young women, the consorts for Vishnu. And basically this is kind of an origin story, a cosmic origin story. And right at the center of it is the Naga. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that tour of the Naga. If you like this kind of thing, please hit the subscribe button and come back for more content. And I'll see you next time. Take care.